a long and arduous journey getting to the end of this strike. 17 days of a strike that has finally come to an end, one of the longest in this sector in a few years, in fact probably over a decade that has been since the engineering sector striked as severely as they have now. Joining me now is Mr. Irvin Jim, the General Secretary of Numsa, to tell us more about this deal. 6% on minimums. This is not exactly what Numsa had asked for. How have members received this agreement now?
Well, it's a kind of a mixed bag, if I were to say, because you would appreciate that what workers have ever asked in relation to this 6% was that please pay it on actuals. We, coming back, having reflected, we took a conscious decision in the NEC that last night that we must go back to workers. Our view was that we must end the strike before the strike get weak and before workers become victims. They're already suffering. There's a 6% on the table. We have consciously took a view that let's take that 6%. We will go back to MANCO, make sure that the agreement between Seifsa as majority parties and Numsa, that agreement is, we invite the Department of Labor to gazette it, to extend it to non-parties. Of course, conservative employers will try to do everything to try and prevent that, but we think that the Labor Relations Act is very clear when it comes to majoritarian. The constitution of the bargaining council is very clear, and that we think that we are in a position to extend this agreement. Obviously, everything else is always in the theater of struggle, and we have now reached an agreement. We'll go and sign this afternoon with Seifsa to settle the strike. You would have heard me saying the clarion call we're making to all employers who have been adopting wait-and-see attitude. We are just telling them that your body is outside. You can't hide. You must come and join this agreement. There's a 6% settlement. Employers must all come on the table and give workers increase. Otherwise, they're risking workers in Max Steel, for instance, in particular companies of Niasa and Saifsa, where workers, if they are not given any increase, even though as a union we said we are ending the national strike, they might within no time basically pursue their strike. So that's why we're calling on employers to say to them, if you want to end the strike, you had enough of it, then come back to us between Monday and Friday, because we have no agreement with CEO, Saifsa, and CEO. They must actually come to the party. And there's a deal that we have secured. It is 6% on minimums. Give all workers what is due to them. Let's stop the strike in the industry and allow all workers to go back to work.
Mr. Jim, some would argue that you have taken the theatre of strike and collective bargaining a little too far, in that you agreed on 6% a week after the union had put that forward initially and you rejected it then. Now a week later, with a lot more money being lost for the workers and organizations, you've come back and said, no, we accept that unconditionally. What is your view?
You would agree with me that the solution of the day are always problems of tomorrow. But we operate on the basis we're a mandatory-driven organization. We could not do any other thing. That when the offer was on the table, I was part of the negotiations. We drove the negotiation. We pushed Seifsa. They finally made the offer. You would appreciate that this offer, we had to compromise to get to 6%. We're not getting 6% across the board. And we push them and say the majority of Numsa members, this is where they are from grade H to grade F, and give them 6%. Those who are the highest paid, give them 5.5, give them 5%, for instance, grade A. And as I said, workers are roughly will get around 478 increase. Those who are up will get around 500 rand increase. That will improve their lives. But even as we would have explained that, we would have gone back to workers in the picket line and say, this is an offer on 6%. Workers who are our bosses, who are mandatory-driven workers, this is a worker control union. They said to us, fine, we will take 6%, but go back to employers, say they must give us that offer on actual rates of pay.
Mr.
employers
Jim,
refused.
Thank you for your time. Unfortunately, that's all we have
Thank you
time
very
for.
much.
Thank you for your
Right.
time this afternoon. Stephen, there's Irvin Jim explaining to us how they came to the 6% after initially rejecting it. As he says, strikes are compromises, and compromises were made on either side, but a deal is finally on the table, and the strike ends.
Kopano Gumbi, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate it. Our reporter live in Boksburg, in Ekurhuleni, for you today. More on